Have you ever felt that strange paradox? The one of being the person everyone turns to while feeling deeply, inexplicably alone. That feeling that your energy is a kind of public good, a resource that others draw upon at will without ever wondering if the source is about to run dry. It's not your imagination. It's not a coincidence. You are the one who listens, who advises, who soothes. Your phone is the first to ring in a crisis. You are described as the pillar, the rock, the strong person. But at night, in the silence, you feel the weight of all these burdens you carry for others, and you wonder who is there to carry yours. This exhaustion that clings to you, this silent frustration of giving constantly and receiving so little in return, is not a sign of weakness. It is proof of your immense capacity for empathy, a gift so powerful it has become a burden simply because no one taught you how to protect it. You believed that to be loved, you had to be useful, and you ended up becoming a tool. The great psychologist Carl Jung believed that these deep states of mind are not pathologies to be cured, but sacred messages from our unconscious. He saw this exhaustion not as a failure, but as a call. The call of your soul begging you to stop pouring yourself outwards and to return home, within yourself. What you feel is not the beginning of the end, it is the beginning of an awakening. An invitation to transform this sensitivity that made you so vulnerable into your greatest strength. You have spent a large part of your life being a lighthouse for others. A constant light, always on, ready to guide ships lost in the storm. But you've noticed something strange, haven't you? The more your light shines for them, the thicker the darkness grows inside you. You feel like an inexhaustible resource, but your own reservoir is almost dry. This feeling of exhaustion, this sense of being both indispensable and invisible, is a truth you carry in silence. You have become a kind of emotional emergency button for those around you. A simple call, a message, and there you are, ready to put out a fire that is not yours, leaving your own dreams and your own needs to slowly burn out. Every yes you utter while your soul screams no is a small betrayal of yourself, a leak of vital energy you will never recover. You are trapped, not by brick walls, but by invisible expectations, by that deeply rooted belief that your value lies in your ability to serve, to respond, to exist for the other. This tendency towards excessive availability is, in reality, the work of your persona. In Jungian psychology, the persona is the social mask we wear to fit in, to be accepted and loved. For you, the empathic, the sensitive, this mask is that of the savior, the eternal confidant, the unwavering pillar. It is a magnificent role, but an exhausting one, for it denies an essential part of you, your own limits, your own desires, your own fatigue. Every time you put on this mask, you expend a colossal amount of psychic energy, repressing what Carl Jung would call your shadow, that part of you that longs for rest, that desires to say no, that needs to withdraw to recharge. You are not just giving your time. You are emptying your soul to maintain a facade that society applauds, but which is slowly killing you. You have become the guardian of a temple where everyone can come to pray, but whose inner God, yourself, is starved and neglected. Imagine your psychic energy is a reservoir of pure water at the top of a mountain. Every time you respond to an unwanted request, every time you force yourself to listen to a drama that doesn't concern you, you pierce a small hole in the reservoir. At first it's just a few drops, barely noticeable, but the holes multiply. Soon it's a constant stream of water escaping, then a torrent. You spend your days trying to patch the breaches with forced smiles and no problem, while your precious resource, the one that should irrigate your own inner garden, pours out onto the arid lands of others. You become an aqueduct for deserts that will never bloom simply because they are used to receiving your water. Meanwhile, your own inner landscape dries up, your creativity wilts, your joy evaporates. This exhaustion you feel is not normal fatigue, it is the thirst of your own soul. The tragedy of this situation is that your constant availability makes you absolutely predictable. You become a simple equation for those seeking to offload. They know that if they press the need button, you will react. You have entered a toxic dance where you are no longer the partner, but the stage on which others play out their dramas. Your role is fixed in advance. Jung would say you are caught in a complex, an unconscious and autonomous behavioral pattern. This savior complex pushes you to react before you have even thought, trapping you in a loop of service and frustration. The part of you that feels used and bitter, your shadow, grows in the dark. It feeds on every interaction where you feel devalued, every moment where your generosity is taken for granted. And the more this shadow is ignored, the more likely it is to manifest destructively later through an outburst of anger, illness, or complete collapse. Ultimately, this bleeding of energy steals the most sacred resource of all, the attention you give to yourself. By constantly being turned outwards, by continuously scanning the horizon to anticipate the needs of others, you forget to listen to the whisper of your own inner self. The path towards what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming fully oneself, a whole and undivided individual, requires an immense amount of energy and inner concentration. It is an alchemical quest that demands turning one's gaze inward to unite the opposites within oneself. But how could you undertake this sacred journey if all your consciousness is projected outwards? You are like an astronomer who spends his life polishing others' telescopes, without ever having time to look at the stars for himself. The greatest tragedy of excessive availability is not fatigue, it is self-forgetfulness. It is the dormancy of your own personal legend, sacrificed on the altar of others' expectations. You are beginning to understand that your exhaustion is not inevitable, but the consequence of a leak. A silent and continuous leak of your most sacred energy. The psychologist Carl Jung taught us that our psyche operates with quantifiable energy, which he called libido, not in a purely sexual sense, but as a universal life force. Every thought you entertain, every emotion you feel, every word you speak is an expenditure of this energy. Think about it for a moment. Every time you worry about someone who doesn't care about you, you are giving them a gift of energy. Every time you ruminate over a conversation to please a person who devalues you, you are burning this vital fuel for nothing. You are the sovereign of a rich and fertile inner kingdom, but you are allowing your most precious resources to be plundered by invaders who have no gratitude. Recognizing this is the first step towards sovereignty. Your psychic energy is your most precious possession. It is the raw material of your dreams, the source of your joy, the power of your transformation. Ceasing to waste it is not selfishness. It is the most fundamental act of self-respect. It is here that a word, often dreaded, becomes your most powerful tool of liberation. The word no. For you, the empathic one, this word has long been synonymous with conflict, abandonment, unkindness. You have learned to avoid it, to sugarcoat it, to disguise it. But it is time to see it for what it truly is, a declaration of sovereignty. Saying no is not an act of aggression, it is the act of drawing a sacred boundary around your being. It is the psychic equivalent of building a wall around your inner garden to protect it from wild beasts. The guilt you feel when uttering it is merely the echo of your old programming, the ghost of your persona who fears rejection. But every conscious and asserted no is a victory. It is a message you send to the universe, but above all to yourself. I am the guardian of my energy. My well-being is a non-negotiable priority. Stop seeing no as a door closing for the other, and start seeing it as a door opening for you. The true art of energy conservation lies not only in saying no, but in what follows: silence. Once you have set your boundary, the temptation is strong to justify yourself, to explain, to apologize. You want to soften the blow, to manage the other person's reaction. This is another leak. You become the guardian of the other's emotion again, spending your energy to appease a discomfort you did not create. True power lies in stating your no as a simple and complete truth, and then remaining silent. This silence is an incredibly powerful space. It grounds you in your decision and forces the other person to confront their own request and their own reaction. You are not in the dark, and your inner peace is not a crime requiring defense. Imagine your no is a mountain. You don't apologize for the existence of a mountain. It is simply there. Your refusal is the same. It is. Period. This silence is the seal of your personal authority. When you stop wasting your energy outwards, something miraculous happens. This energy, this river of life that was pouring into the void, begins to flow back inwards. It irrigates your inner lands that had become arid once again. It is at this moment that you begin to hear again, not the loud voices of others, but the subtle murmur of your own intuition, the voice of your soul. Creative ideas that seemed to have vanished resurface. Simple joy, which had been overshadowed by the burden of others' responsibilities, begins to sparkle again. Jungian psychology shows us that this return of energy inwards is the indispensable condition for beginning the process of individuation. This is the fuel that will allow you to descend into your own depths, meet your shadows, integrate your forgotten parts, and heal. You cannot undertake the greatest journey, the one within yourself, if your vessel is constantly requisitioned for the excursions of others. This mastery of your psychic energy is the foundation of your inner fortress. You become less predictable and therefore less manipulable. Your yes, when given, becomes an infinitely more precious gift, for it is conscious, chosen, and sincere, and no longer an automatic response dictated by fear or guilt. You cease to be an emotional public service to become a private sanctuary, a sacred place where only those who respect and honor you are invited to enter. This quiet strength you cultivate is not a cold, impenetrable armor. It is contained warmth, serene power. It is the calm presence of someone who knows their own worth and no longer needs external validation. By becoming the vigilant guardian of your energy, you are not cutting yourself off from the world. You are simply choosing to engage with it from a place of fullness and no longer from a place of lack. You become a lighthouse that chooses when and for whom to shine, always ensuring you keep enough light for yourself. You must understand a fundamental truth about power dynamics. Manipulation needs a partner. A manipulator, at heart, is a person at war with themselves, terrified of their own inner emptiness. To avoid confronting the chaos within them, they desperately need an external canvas onto which to project their own demons, insecurities, and reproaches. And you, with your open heart, deep empathy, and constant availability, were the perfect canvas. Every time you listened to their endless complaints, absorbed their unjustified anger, or tried to fill their insatiable need for attention, you offered them a blank canvas and unconsciously said, "Go ahead, pour your darkness here. I can take it." They painted on you the portrait of their own failures, making you responsible for their unhappiness. Your availability was not just help, it was permission. Permission you gave them to use you as an emotional dumping ground to avoid doing their own inner work. This mechanism is what Jungian psychology calls the projection of the shadow. The shadow, for Jung, represents all the parts of ourselves that we refuse to see, that we deem unacceptable, and that we repress into the unconscious. Our greed, our jealousy, our insecurity, our cruelty. The manipulator is a master at projecting their shadow. Unable to admit their own weakness, they will accuse you of being fragile. Unable to manage their own anger, they will call you hysterical. By constantly reacting and seeking to justify yourself, you unknowingly agree to carry the burden of their shadow. You begin to doubt yourself, to wonder if you are actually the problem. This is the most insidious trap. You end up internalizing their discourse and believing that the monsters they describe are yours. You carry a burden that was never yours, and you exhaust yourself fighting demons that are, in reality, reflections of their own. It is here that unavailability becomes your most formidable weapon. It is not escape, it is a strategy of rupture. Imagine you are in a toxic power game, a chess match where you are destined to lose. Unavailability is not simply refusing to play your next move. It is flipping the board and leaving the room. By not responding, by consciously choosing silence, by no longer showing up, you break the cycle. You remove the canvas. The manipulator is then left with their brush, dripping with black paint, but facing a bare wall. There is no longer a surface onto which to project. Your lack of reaction creates a deafening void, a void that was previously filled by your energy. This act of withdrawal is not weakness. It is a demonstration of supreme power, the power to refuse to participate in a game that is designed to destroy you. The manipulator's reaction to your new unavailability will be your clearest confirmation. Deprived of their canvas, they are forced to confront, if only for a second, what they were fleeing: themselves. The projection, having nowhere to go, returns full force like a boomerang. It is at this moment that their own shadow looks back at them in the mirror. This experience is so terrifying for them that they will try everything to pull you back into the game. They will deploy their full arsenal: guilt-tripping, "You're selfish," victim-blaming, "Look how you make me suffer," false promises, even anger. Make no mistake, their fury is not a sign that you were wrong to withdraw. It is a sign that your strategy worked. You have broken the spell. You have removed their emotional anesthetic, and the pain of their own emptiness is beginning to be felt. By consciously choosing unavailability, you are not just protecting yourself. You are reclaiming your own story. You refuse to continue being a secondary character in someone else's chaotic drama. You assert that your mental and emotional space is sovereign territory, and that you are its sole guardian. This act of boundary setting is fundamental to your psychic health. It can be painful. It may mean the end of certain relationships. But were these relationships truly relationships, or energetic transactions where you were the only one paying? Strategic unavailability allows you to filter those who are there for your light from those who are there to consume it. It is a silent but powerful statement that says, "I am not a resource, I am a source, and my primary responsibility is to irrigate myself." The silence you will now cultivate is not an emptiness. It is not an absence, nor a punishment you inflict on the world. It is quite the opposite. Strategic silence is a full space, a dense and active presence. It is a conscious choice to withdraw your energy from the external chaos, to focus it on rebuilding your inner world. In a society that glorifies noise, reaction, and constant expression, choosing silence is a revolutionary act. It is refusing to participate in the great din of expectations and projections. Imagine yourself as a musician who, in the middle of a deafening cacophony, decides not to play another note. Your silence does not add to the emptiness. It creates a pause, a contrast that reveals the absurdity of the surrounding noise. This silence is your sanctuary, a soundproof place where, for the first time in a long time, you can begin to hear the subtle melody of your own soul. In this space of quietude, your perspective changes radically. As long as you were caught in the dance of reactivity, you were too close to see the strings. You were the puppet who felt the jerks, but didn't see the puppeteer. Silence offers you perspective. It allows you to sit in the audience of your own life and watch the play unfold. Suddenly, the patterns become obvious. You clearly see the manipulation attempts, the emotional hooks, the guilt-tripping patterns. What previously seemed complex and personal becomes simple and impersonal. You observe the mechanisms with the clarity of a scientist. Carl Jung would say, "This is the beginning of higher consciousness." By ceasing to feed the system with your reactions, you see it for what it is. You are no longer a trapped victim, but an enlightened observer who understands the rules of the game and chooses not to play it anymore. This path inwards will inevitably lead you to a form of solitude. The people who took advantage of your availability, those who were only interested in the function you served for them, will drift away. Their departure may initially leave a feeling of emptiness, of sadness. This is a natural step, a necessary mourning. But do not confuse this solitude with isolation. It is a sacred solitude, the kind of solitude mystics and poets seek. It is in this desert that the real work begins. Jungian psychology compares this process to the work of the alchemist, who needs a vas bene clausum, a well-sealed vessel, for the transformation of base matter into gold to take place. Your solitude is this vessel. It is in this silence, protected from external interference, that you can finally sort things out, confront your shadows without distraction, and begin to unify yourself. When the tumult of the external world fades, you begin to perceive the voices of your own inner landscape. At first, it may be the voices of your fears and doubts that shout the loudest. But if you remain in the silence, if you listen with patience, another voice will begin to emerge, a calmer, deeper, wiser voice. This is the voice Jung called the self, the organizing center of your psyche, your divine core. It is your intuition, your innate wisdom. It is the part of you that has always known what was right for you, but was stifled by the noise. In silence, you learn to trust this inner guidance. You discover that you possess within you the compass, the map, and the destination. You are not lost. You are simply too distracted to look inside yourself. This silence is therefore not an end in itself, but a gestation. It is the soil in which a new you can take root and grow. A you that is no longer defined by its reactivity to others, but by its connection to its own center. A you that is whole, sovereign, and authentic. The peace you find in this silence is not an empty, passive peace. It is a vibrant peace, a fullness of being. It is the quiet strength of the deeply rooted tree, which is not unsettled by the wind. By withdrawing from the noise, you are not fleeing life. You are preparing to return to it in an entirely new way. No longer as a victim of circumstances, but as the conscious creator of your reality. Silence is the gateway to this freedom. It is the path that leads you back home, to yourself. If you have felt the truth of these words deep within you, understand this. Your tendency towards excessive availability was not a mistake. Your sensitivity has never been a weakness. It was your training ground. You had to experience the loss of energy to understand its sacred value. You had to be the canvas for others to learn how precious your own colors are. This pain you felt was not a punishment, but an initiation. It sharpened your perception and taught you the subtle laws of the human psyche. What seemed to be your greatest vulnerability is in reality the sign of a heightened consciousness, ready to move to another level of existence, a level of personal sovereignty. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe to continue this journey together into the heart of ourselves. Each video is one more step on this shared path. To anchor this new consciousness and so that we can recognize each other, comment below with this simple affirmation: my silence is my strength. By writing it, you make it a pact with yourself. Share this video with another soul who you believe needs to hear that they have the right to rest and choose themselves. Do not be afraid of the distance your new attitude will create. Those who must leave will leave, making space for those who are capable of meeting you in your new integrity. Your job is not to be a rescue station for exhausted travelers. Your job is to become a sanctuary for your own soul. Stop hiding. Stop apologizing for needing peace. Your very existence, in its most authentic and silent form, is permission for others to do the same. Be the silent guardian of your own light. It will only shine brighter.